What's up, Packer fans? Back again. Packers play tomorrow, finally. Friday, Packers play the Saints. They scrimmaged against them the last 2 days. They have a day off today, and tomorrow they will play. I'm super excited to see how this second game goes. A lot of guys go into game one a little bit nervous. They have, they had a long off season and got to knock out some of the rust. So this second game is when I really expect them to kind of show up. They've had two days of scrimmages against this Saints team, so they kind of know the tendencies. They know what to expect. They know what to look for. And going into the end of yesterday, Jordan Love looked so good. That 2 minute drill, he really finally got it all together and made it work. That long throw to Samari was really good, and he just looked like he was starting to kind of get the hang of it. I think he kind of just figured out this Saints defense, and I look for Jordan Love tomorrow to have a really big game. He's going into his third year. That first year was the COVID year, 2020, so we didn't have an off season at all. Last year he had all the noise surrounding Aaron Rodgers and what was Aaron gonna do, and all that stuff, and still some COVID stuff even they had to deal with last year as well. So for Love, this is really his first year going in and just being second string, knowing Rodgers is here. Rodgers signed, kind of a contract to stay for 3 more years, even though it's kind of like a year by year thing. But anyway, Love, it's time for him to show what he can do. I really think this is going to be his coming out party, kind of just showing everybody, why the Packers drafted him and putting it all together. He's going to be at home in Lambeau. They played at San Francisco, last time. A lot of noise surrounding Trey Lance and the comparison with him and Love, and then just being on the road and in a hostile environment and all those things. For a guy like Jordan Love, he's going to feel at ease playing in Lambeau. I think it'll be really good to have the fans kind of backing him, and I look for this to kind of be the game where Jordan Love shows that he is ready to play. I'm super excited. Danny Etling will come in probably. They had Love play the first half last week against San Fran, and then Danny Etling played the second half. Etling did some good things, but I just want to see Love. I don't really, Etling will probably be a practice squad guy. He'll be a guy that we won't have to worry about other teams picking him off the practice squad. So he's a guy that, will probably take some development, if anything, and we don't really need to see him right now. I just want to see what Jordan Love can do. So I'm excited for tomorrow. Last week he had 2 touchdowns and 3 picks in the first half. That'd be 4 touchdowns and 6 picks if he did the same thing. But I think that he'd probably cut down some of those interceptions and just throw the touchdowns. So maybe 4 and 4 would be how he would have ended that game. Not bad, I guess. That's a lot of throws, a lot of attempts, but 4 touchdowns, 4 picks. It sounds like Brett Favre, and you can cut down on those interceptions as you go along, as he learns and all those things. And like LaFleur said, 2 of those weren't really his fault. The one Dobbs had ripped out of his hands. The other one Winfrey dropped. So, and then another one they should have picked off as well, but it fell to the turf. So, but whatever. I'm excited to see what Love can do tomorrow. It'll be really interesting to see how he comes out and just how he plays. He's gonna get the start, so he knows that going in, and it just like I said, not a hostile environment. So we will see how it goes. I cannot wait to see him. There's a bunch of position battles, and throughout the roster, obviously we know who the starters are for the most part. Obviously Rodgers. So watching Love is important, but then running backs behind A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Who is going to be the number 3 running back until Colin Hill gets back? I don't know if he'll be back by week 1. I haven't really heard a lot of updates about his knee. He was rehabbing and doing some rehab in the rehab group, but nothing about him coming off the PUP list anytime soon. So who is going to be that number 3 running back? Right now, it looks like Tyler Goodson has the inside track, the undrafted free agent rookie out of Iowa. I like what I see out of him, pass catching, running all those things. He looks good. He's got speed. He just kind of hits the hole and goes. Not a lot of dancing around. He looks like a guy that can play. We just brought back Dexter Williams, which is why I think they let go of BJ Baylor, a guy who I did like. I saw some good things against San Francisco. He had that long, I think it was like 68 yards from Danny Etling. So it was, he looked like he was doing well. He had some nice runs too. So I thought he would have been still on this 85-man roster. They just had to do cuts, and he was one of the 5 guys to get cut. So Dexter Williams coming in is kind of showing, that's kind of the Packers showing like, okay, this is a guy that we prefer to have. Dexter was in the Packers on the Packers roster a few years ago, and then kind of bounced around to different leagues. I think he would, and then was in the USFL. So for him, it's another opportunity to get back into football, and he may have a chance to be number 3 or number 4 for the Packers this year. When it comes to running backs, Patrick Taylor's back healthy again. I think he has a chance to be that 4th guy, probably 2. I don't know where Hill is at. He's going to throw a big wrench into all this if he comes back. Then they'll probably only keep one of these guys. So out of Goodson, Williams, and Taylor, it'll be interesting to see what guy steps up. This is a big opportunity for them to play well, and this is it. It's getting down to crunch time. Basically, before they go into that last game, the roster's kind of already set. The coaches know who they want. They're just looking at little different kinks and little different things that they have to work out and sort out. Maybe like one position guy, they just want to see a little bit more on him. So by then, they normally know who is going to make the team, and this is the game that really shows them what it's all about. This is when the teams really start to kind of open it up. Next week, they don't want to get people hurt. They just kind of want to do their final evals, and that's how it goes. So this is the game where there's still enough time before the start of the season. If anything happens, they just want to really turn it loose right now and see what they have from these guys. This is like the eval game of the preseason. They really just want to get the most out of these guys and see what they can do, so they can make the best decision on who they're going to keep. So really exciting time. Just preseason for me is all just about seeing what guys can give us depth at positions. What guys, you never know when a guy's going to have to play, when a guy might go down with a week. Injuries happen every week in this league, and sometimes it's multiple weeks, sometimes it's out for the season, sometimes it's just out for that game, but you still need guys that can come in and step up and play right away. So I just like seeing who's going to be on the depth chart and who's going to suit up every game. It's interesting. So then at tight end, it's going to be another battle, so we know who we do have. We know Robert Tonyan is going to start. We know Mercedes Lewis is going to play. We know that Josiah DeGuara is probably on this roster, and we know that Tyler Davis is a guy that was talked about. So those 4 guys, I think, are on it for sure. They have Elise Mack, who's been on a lot of special teams, and he's been playing well as a receiver and as a blocker. So he's a guy to watch. And then Sal Cannella, the USFL holdover, he made that first cut, so he's still here. He actually led the USFL in receiving yards in a game for that first season. We have the kicker, who has the longest kick in the game too for the USFL, so kind of funny. But those are, that's kind of a battle we'll watch. If DeGuara was a guy who I thought was on the bubble, kind of. Tyler Davis, they thought would show up a little bit more than he has in this training camp. And so guys like Elise Mack and Sal can really, kind of squeak in and maybe take a roster spot from one of those 2 guys. We will see how that goes. I think we're pretty good with Tonyan and Lewis, so behind them it's, kind of just going to be depth. But we'll see who can step up. There's opportunities all over this team. Again, like the offensive line now, we know that Yash, until Bach comes back, he'll be the left tackle. That's pretty set. John Runyon Jr. is left guard. That's pretty set. Josh Myers is center. That's set. And then on this right side, when Jenkins is back, which I think he will start week 1, he'll be right tackle. Newman and Hansen will be on the inside, right guard and right tackle. And so it makes it's those guys are gonna make it really nice because they've gelled now. They've had time together. They've really got to get situated, but those 5 guys are the starters for now. Obviously, when Jenkins is back, he'll be the right tackle. Bach will be back. He'll be the left tackle. I don't know what that'll do to shake up the rest of this offensive line. Having Hansen at right guard or Newman at right tackle, they might flip flop those guys. If Jenkins comes in, they might put Newman in at right guard. We will see how that goes. But the position battle is behind those guys. It really is starting to kind of shape up. There's so many really talented young offensive linemen on this team. Zach Tom's the rookie. He's doing well. Sean Ryan's been doing really well. Caleb Jones, the big 6'9" guy, he's been really he's doing really well too. They have Michael Manet, who's pretty much solidified himself as a second unit guy right now, but still he's got a spot right, not on the third unit. Then Cole Van Lannon is playing really well. He's the guy that can play multiple positions. That's interesting to watch. Zach Tom can do the same thing. And then Rasheed Walker's back from injury as well. He's a big young kid out of Penn State. But it'll be interesting to see how many offensive linemen they can keep. The Packers probably know more about David Bakhtiari's knee than Elgton Jenkins. Then they've told anybody else. And Elgton Jenkins, I think he'll be back week 1. So depending on where Bach's at, depends on like how many other offensive linemen they may need to keep until then. I had us keeping 10 originally on my 53-man. I don't think that's a really a realistic number. I think they should be more at like 9. But if they have questions about when Bach will be back and they just want to keep an extra guys, there's definitely depth here, and we'll see who they keep. That's just another position group to watch, as a whole, and they're going to be battling up front for sure. This first unit is probably going to be the guys who are starting for Rodgers week 1. They might throw Jenkins in, like I said, but for the most part, these will be the starting 5. And I just want to see how they do against, the Saints front guys. I know they might not all be the ones, but at least they're the front guys for now. I want to see how they hold their own against them. Then the receivers, which is what everybody's been talking about. I'm excited to watch how these young guys play, how these young guys kind of respond to what Rodgers said, how this week kind of went, all the publicity around it all, how everybody kind of dealt with, the media's attention to this situation, even though I kind of said that I didn't think it was an issue. He didn't really, call anybody out publicly by name. He just was making a basic statement saying that if you don't catch the ball, you're not going to be out there on the field. And these guys know that. They've been knowing that since they were probably in high school. If you don't catch the ball, you're not going to be on the field. All through college. If they didn't catch the ball, they weren't going to be on the field. Obviously, they got most of them got drafted, or they're in the NFL because they can catch the ball. They know that. It's just mental things, of course. And Rodgers is just trying to make sure that these guys are prepared. They just give them a little. I don't think it's a bad thing to kind of just give them a little heads up, tell them this is what you got to do. This is how the NFL is. It's all for everybody to see. So get used to it. They're gonna interview Rodgers. Rodgers is gonna say stuff. It's gonna get blown up. It's gonna get blown out of proportion. That's gonna happen. How do these guys respond to that is what's gonna be important. I really think that these guys, Rodgers. They say LaFleur maybe called that meeting earlier. I think Rodgers probably had a lot to do with it, regardless of if, maybe they came together. I really just think Rodgers said, hey, guys, we got to talk about this. Obviously, none of the rookies called the meeting. And then Samari said that it was a really good meeting. They got they got a lot out of it, and they wanted to respond. They wanted to show Rodgers that, maybe we haven't been doing our part, and we got to step it up. So the Packers know basically that Randall Cobb is wide receiver. Allen Lazard will be wide receiver 1. Sammy Watkins and Amari Rodgers, holdover from last year. Those are the 4 guys who basically we know for sure. Then the rookies, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Samari Torrey. Those 3 guys are probably be on the team too. I think Samari may be a practice squad guy. But Dobbs and Watson is what I want to watch. Those other guys aren't really going to play, Cobb, Lazard, and Watkins, but Amari Rodgers will play. He'll be on like kick return and stuff, and maybe punt return. But I want to see how he does as a pass catcher, as a receiver. Obviously, I want to see how Romeo Doubs steps up after all this stuff was kind of swirled around him. But I think he's a guy that's going to respond really well. He's going to want to show all the doubters that, he may drop one in practice, but he's gonna make up for it. He's gonna figure it out. He really came on against San Fran, had a touchdown, but then he had some bad drops. So I think he's got a lot to prove, and he wants to prove it. Christian Watson, this is gonna be his first preseason game. I think he might be out there on punt returns and stuff just to give him a look. I don't know what he's gonna get on the offensive side of the ball. We'll see. I know he just came back this week from injuries, so we'll see what the Packers want to do with him. Then we have Juwann Winfree, who is a guy that Rodgers has shouted out already. I think he's got a really good chance to make this team, which makes 5 receivers, and then with Doubs, that's 6. With Watson, that's 7. And so that's probably what they're going to keep is Cobb, Lazard, Watkins, Rodgers, Doubs, Watson, and Winfree, making 7. But then you have Samori Toure, like I said, who's the 7th rounder. He'll probably be a practice squad guy. Then you have Ishmael Hyman, the USFL guy, who's done good. He's done the most with his opportunities. I don't know if it's enough to make this team, but so far he's really done a lot of good things. And then Danny Davis, who was injured and did not practice yesterday, but he's been playing really well lately as well. Played well against San Fran, and then has been doing well in practice. If he can get into this game, he's got a lot to prove, but he cannot afford to miss this game because of an injury. I don't know what his status is as of right now. I don't know what it'll be as of at the start of the game, but we'll see how that goes. I am interested to watch him. He's actually shown me a lot more than I thought he would coming in when I heard that the Packers had signed him as an undrafted free agent. I just was like, okay, well, we'll see what he can do. But Wisconsin wasn't really they didn't throw a whole lot. They had Jonathan Taylor, like I was talking about, and Jonathan Taylor looks so good this year. But anyway, so we'll see how that all goes with the receivers. There's room there to be, a guy that gets on the field maybe as that 5th guy, or that 4th or 5th guy when they do a four wide sets or 5 wide sets. So we'll see how it all shakes down. I think Doubs has the inside track, but if Rodgers was saying, as long you do really well, but if you drop the ball, you're not going to make the team. Well, you'll make the team, but this guy Doubs will make the team whether he's dropping it or not. But he just won't make the field this year probably until he develops more in the catching area. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really do not think it's going to be an issue. I think he's going to figure this out. Obviously, there's going to be drops. It's just can't drop the easy ones, the ones you should catch, and hopefully you're 50-50 on the tough ones, the 50-50 ball. So I'm excited to see how Love plays with those guys and how they kind of all boost each other up and how they help each other. I look for Love to have less interceptions because his guys are catching it instead of having it bounce off their hands and getting it intercepted or ripped right out of their arms, So, but now, okay, so then on the defensive side of the ball, this is where it gets really fun. There's so many really solid defensive players. This starting defense is going to be probably number 1 in the league. I was saying top 5 before, then I moved up to top 3, and now I think they're going to be number 1. They look elite on all levels. It's scary how good this defense could be. Obviously, Kenny Clark's a Pro Bowler, All-Pro. He'd be All-Pro if it wasn't for Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald, but he is basically right behind those guys in the middle. Then Jaron Reed, he's a big stud that just came in. Dean Lowry, T.J. Slane from last year, Jack Heflin from last year, and then they got Devontae Wyatt. So that's 6 guys right there. I think those will be the 6. I don't think there's a lot of room for another guy on that D-line just because other positions need to have players. But there's Akil Byers, Jonathan Ford, and Chris Slayton kind of vying for a spot too. So maybe Jack Heflin's on the bubble. TJ Slane could be too, but we will see how that goes. But Kenny Clark's, a guy that's could be he'll probably be in the Pro Bowl this year, and then you pair him with the outside linebackers, Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, then with the corners, and then the safeties. There's all levels. It's so stacked. The inside linebackers. So we have obviously Devondre Campbell, All Pro, and then Quay Walker, who right away got ahead of Chris Barnes for that second middle linebacker spot. But behind him, there's a battle for special team spots. Chris Barnes, I think he'll be that three, the inside linebacker three. But then Isaiah McDuffie, Ty Summers, and then Ray Wilborn are all kind of trying to get on the team, either as the fourth middle linebacker basically, but as a special teams guy for sure. McDuffie's got the inside track, I think, there. So I think it's really a battle between Ty Summers and Wilborn to see kind of who might be that last guy to make the linebacker unit. There's a lot of opportunities all over this team. Obviously, the starters are pretty much set on all levels on both sides of the ball, but there's a lot of opportunity for special teams, like I keep saying, and just to make the roster, and guys that can contribute is what they're looking for. Outside linebackers, probably the biggest battle of all of these. Obviously, receiver is big, but we have some veterans that are pretty much set as like the 1, 2, 3. But at outside linebacker, behind Rashawn Gary, who's going to have 15 sacks or more this year, and then Preston Smith, who will probably have like 8 to 10. But behind them, it's who's outside linebacker 3. Last year, obviously, they had Zadarius Smith, which helped, and kind of they were able to bring Rashawn Gary on slow. But now with Gary being the guy, Zadarius went to the Vikings after he said no to the Ravens, which should have just went to the Ravens, Z. Should have just went to the Ravens. But he didn't. So now who is going to be outside linebacker 3 for the Packers? They have Tipa Galai. I still got to hear him pronounce it. Who knows what it is. And then Kobe Jones, who I really, really like. He's a guy that he kind of just showed up out of nowhere. I didn't even have him on my any list anywhere. Didn't really see his name a lot early on in camp, and now he's just been flashing on the screen a lot. He's been flashing at practice, flashing during the scrimmages, and then even in the game against San Fran, he had a sack late in the game. So he's a guy that's really kind of showing up, kind of getting his name out there, kind of making his mark, and he's a guy who I think can probably squeak onto this team. That means that Jonathan Garvin may not make it, and he's been doing pretty well. Chauncey Manick, who, haven't heard a lot about him, he probably won't make it. And then Ladarius Hamilton, who had the inside track until he got hurt, and now Kobe Jones has kind of taken on that role. But a guy who I really like, 6'4", 260-pound, JJ Enagbar, he's a guy that I think is going to be that number 3. It might not be right away at the start of this season here, but by the end of the year, he's going to be that third outside linebacker rotating in when they take Gary out or Preston Smith out. He's really come on lately. He's really, the last 2 scrimmages, it's been an Agbar with the sack, with the pressure, just with a really good run stop, running down the line, good contain, just really playing smart and sound. He took a little while to come on, it took about 10 days to really start hearing his name when it came to training camp and then when it came to the scrimmages, but really exciting that he's kind of out there. I think he got a sack in that game against San Fran, and he's just kind of just building days, and I really like what I've seen out of him. He's done a lot with his opportunities, and I think he's the guy that can, with his size and his physical athletic ability, it's he's bigger than Tipa, he's bigger than Kobe. I think he's going to be the guy that kind of comes in and takes on that role, but we will see. And then cornerback, obviously we know our corners. We've got 3 great corners, Stokes, Jair Alexander, and Rasul Douglas. I like all 3, but who is going to be the 4, 5, 6 behind them if they keep 6? Shamar John Charles, rookie last year, kind of the holdover from last year. He's a guy who I like. He's a little undersized, but he plays way bigger than he is. Kind of that slot corner, kind of like a Jair, but he's the guy that's not afraid to tackle, and I do like him. He's really athletic. I think he came out of Appalachian State, which is D2, I believe. So it's not the biggest schools, but so it's taken him a little bit of time to come on, but he is really, really athletic and plays really tough. Then you have Casey Nixon, who came over from the Raiders with Rich Bisaccia. He's a guy who I think makes this team just because of his special teams prowess with Rich, but he also has been playing really well at corner, and he's a guy that's just physical. He's not afraid to get in there and tackle, and I like what I've seen out of him. So he's the guy that'll probably make the team. And then you have Kabion Ento, who was on the squad last year, and Keandre Thomas, who I think he's going to be the odd man out. But we will see how this battle shakes out. With Shamar, that's 4. With Casey Nixon, that's 5. So the battle really would be between Kabion Ento and Keandre Thomas if they do indeed keep 6 guys. I still think they might keep 5, but you never know. If Nixon's kind of their special teams specialist, then they'll want to keep another kind of cover corner. But they also have Rico Gafford, who is a kick returner mostly, but he's a corner by trade. They switched him to receiver last year. That didn't really work out, so now he's back to corner, and he's a guy with blazing speed. Obviously, he's got a little more special teams. There's more need for him on special teams than really as a cover corner, but with the speed, speed kills in the NFL. So if you have a guy that's super fast, maybe he can make up for the little mistakes that he makes, and he could be a cover corner. But he's a guy that I think makes the team as the kick returner, so he'll probably be the 6. Maybe Nixon will be the 5, and then you'll want your best cover corner to be the 4. So that'll be between Kabion Ento, Shamar John Charles, and Keandre Thomas. And I think John Charles has that inside track. So we'll see how all that plays out. Like I said, another position battle. That'll be exciting. It's just the Packers, they got rid of Kevin King. I had seen something that said they signed him, but they did not. He had been on the team for the last few years. Last year they gave him a 1-year deal. He just kept getting burned, always burned. We still remember him getting burned against Mike Evans, and then, before the half, Scotty Miller. So it's not a horrible thing to see Kevin King go. I did like the fact that he was 6'3", 200-pound corner, but he just never really translated to becoming really a solid cover corner. So they went out and got Jair and Stokes and now Douglas. So now we have 3 guys who are super good. So I'm really excited about the back end there. We will see which guys they add to that, but another position battle. So then we get to the safeties, and obviously we know Adrian Amos, who's a guy who I think is number 2 behind Derwin James as the best safeties in the league. Obviously Honey Badger's probably right below him, but I just like Amos's size, his ability to tackle and cover. He really is always in the right place at the right time, but I love Amos. And then Darnell Savage, super fast. He's usually in the right place, but he just doesn't always catch the interception. So hopefully I can see a little bit of development from him when it comes to being more of a ball hawk and coming down with those picks. But those 2 guys on the back end are awesome. Savage has been kind of injured the last couple of practices, so they've been using Vernon Scott as the 1 along with Adrian Amos. Sean Davis came in, though, and had an interception in the scrimmage. He's been playing really well as of late. So he's a guy that's pushing for that 1 spot. If Darnell Savage can't go, I think Savage will be fine week 1. But, you need to figure out who your other safeties are going to be. They have Enos Gaines, who's kind of on the injured, but I think he just came off. So he's the guy that's pushing kind of right behind Sean Davis. I don't think they keep more than 4 safeties, so it might just be Savage, Amos, Vernon Scott, and Sean Davis. But if they have questions about Savage's leg, or hamstring, they may keep a 5th, and that would be, like I said, Enos Gaines, who's kind of out. Dallin Leavitt, who I think is an injury too. But then they have a guy who they just signed from the USFL again, Micah Abernathy, who I'm excited to watch just because he's a guy I haven't seen a lot, and this is really his opportunity to do something. He's going to be out there a lot. I know Tariq Carpenter, the rookie from Georgia Tech, he'll be out there at safety too, but he's kind of more that hybrid safety linebacker. So Micah Abernathy is going to get a lot of opportunities to play. I think, like I said, I think Enos Gaines is out and Dallin's out. So it's going to be Vernon Scott, Sean Davis, Micah Abernathy, and Tariq Carpenter at the safety spots. That'll be super exciting to watch. I mean, it's position battles everywhere from offense to defense, special teams. This is the game where all this stuff really starts to shape out. You start seeing guys that really want it and the guys that are, going to separate themselves from the rest of the guys who are trying to get on this team. Special teams is something that I'm going to watch closely all through preseason and camp. Kicker, obviously Mason Crosby has been injured since the start of camp. He's still on the PUP list. I think he's gearing up to be ready week 1. He's a guy that's a vet. He's a kicker. He's been in the league a long time. They're not really worried about him getting up to speed, all those things. He just needs to be able to kick, and obviously he has to be healthy for that. So they have Ramiz Ahmed, who has come in and kicked really well so far for the Packers. Whatever he did before that, or, whatever issues he's had in the past, seems like he's figuring it out and he's doing really, really well. I don't think he's going to push Crosby for that kicking spot, but if he keeps making them and kicks some 61-yarders, it could be a battle. So we will see how that goes. Again, like I said, kick return has been Rico Gafford, but they've also used like Romeo Dowds back there, Amari Rodgers, Christian Watson, and that's going to be a battle that kind of shapes itself out as well. We'll see who they use back there for return man. If Watson wins the job, then you probably don't need to have a reason for Rico Gafford, but if Gafford's the best guy for the job, then he makes the squad, and it's special teams has a lot to do with how many guys you keep at what positions. I mean, those are really where the guys fill out the spots, and that's why sometimes you have 7 tight ends or whatever, 6 tight ends, or only 5 receivers or only 5 linebackers, and then you have a bunch of safeties or however it goes. So it'll be interesting to see where these guys fill out the roster. But then Jack Coco, he's probably going to be long snapper. He's a guy who, after last year with Steve Wordle having all those injuries, Wordle was back this year in camp, but they have cut him this week, and it's basically Jack Coco's job to lose. I'm pretty sure he'll be the man for the job, or the man with the starting spot at long snapper for the Packers this year. I just like the name Jack Coco, so I hope he makes the team, but as long as he can snap and be consistent, and it's good for Pat O'Donnell to punt and good for Pat O'Donnell to hold for Crosby to kick, that's all that matters, and I think we'll be good to go. Just a lot of interesting and a lot of exciting position battles to watch all over the field, both sides of the ball. It's, like I said, this is the game where these guys really have to prove what they have, and they've been in camp for over 2 weeks now. They had 2 scrimmages against this team. They know what the Saints are going to do. Now it's time to go out and perform and prove to the Packers that you deserve to be on this roster, and that's what makes it so exciting. That's why I like preseason football. Not everybody gets so excited about it because there aren't all the starters, but these are guys that are trying to fulfill their dreams and be in the NFL. They're working their butt off. They're just trying so hard. It's why I enjoy college, because they're working hard to get to the pros. These guys are also working hard to get to the pros, basically. So that excitement really, gets me pumped for watching preseason football. Obviously, when week 1 starts, it's more exciting because it actually counts and it's all real. But the squad that day is based on what these guys do tomorrow. So I'm excited to see what happens. Joe Barry is so pumped about his defense. We brought Joe Barry in last year, obviously after we let Mike Pettin go. I had questions about Barry, but he came from the Rams system, and he brought a really awesome, defensive scheme. He's got a lot of good players to utilize, and now, we added more pieces, more speed. Barry basically said we had 2 elite edge rushers, 4 elite interior defensive linemen, 2 elite inside linebackers, 3 elite cover corners, and 2 elite safeties. I don't think he used the elite for all of them, but either way, that's what I heard. And so, but that's basically what it is though. On all levels, there's guys that are basically Pro Bowlers or All Pro, and this defense is going to be really good. Obviously, they're not going to play tomorrow. They're not going to play in any of the preseason games, all the ones. But when these guys get together, week 1 against the Vikings, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to have much time to throw or do much. This defense is really fast. They fly around the ball. They get penetration inside. They get penetration from the outside. These guys can cover, and the safeties are always in the right spot. The middle linebackers are always in the right spot. Devondre Campbell is great. Gets so underappreciated, undervalued, all those things. And he's teaching Quay Walker how to be an all-pro, basically. And Quay's, starting with an amazing set of athletic skills and physical tools. So I'm super excited to see how this goes. The Packers Saints tomorrow night, we will be watching. Thank you guys for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back next time. Go Packers. And thank you for watching. Peace out.